Beautiful day to be alive. I want us to compare dating in real life versus dating online. So the interesting thing with dating online is, let's start with the basics. You're seeing people with their best foot forward, filters, things of that nature, right? And what ends up happening is you match with these girls. Give me a sec. So you match with these girls, but before you do that, right? Let's start with understanding the mechanics of trying to find someone online, which is what it's far easier to just get on an app, swipe, match, slide into a DM, copy and paste the same information over and over. That's easy. Versus trying to find someone in person. It's a little bit more difficult naturally, right? It requires a little bit more effort. The thing is, so you find these women, you match with these women, best foot forward, you see the pictures with the filters and the angles. And so you get a sense for what their best version of themselves is. However, the shortfall becomes when you actually meet them in person. Hardly, and I can say this with no doubt in my mind, and none of the girls that I ever met online ever exceeded what they looked like in pictures. Oftentimes, not even close. It was never the opposite though. You never saw someone in pictures and thought, okay, and then see them in person and think they're even better in person. Hardly ever. Hardly ever. I would beg to differ if someone did say that. And so you start with that part. Is typically you don't see their flaws, right? Because, it's hidden behind so many different filters. And so that's the first part. And almost every time I dated someone online, there was always that disappointment that the expectation was never going to, match the reality. Hardly ever. And so that's the first thing you got to consider when you're trying to date online. The other thing is too, like it's stacked against dudes. There's way more women on there, and it's way more average to below average women. I would say the prettiest girls don't need to go online, so you're not going to see the prettiest ones. Typically, you'll see girls that are not so pretty. And I think that's the other issue, is that you end up seeing a lot of good looking dudes out here trying to fish for these subpar women. And so that's where sort of the imbalance comes from, is that good looking dudes shouldn't be looking for average looking women online. You should be out on the prowl. You should be out on the streets. And so it's rigged in the favor of women typically, and below average women at that can jump online and kind of fish for good looking dudes. And then these dudes just fall for that. I don't know, I feel like a lot of guys don't understand their value, and they haven't tested it out, so they're not aware of it. And that's the big issue. The other thing is too, so when you make the distinction, you go from the online stuff, you're like, you know what, I don't want to do this. And you go into in person, the first thing you'll notice is you go outside and you find women that you're attracted to and you want to speak to. What ends up happening is you go, and right off the top, you see exactly what the product is, right? Exactly what you're looking at is exactly what you're going to get. So what you don't like, and what you like from the top, from the very start. And so that's always been the most exciting thing, is those interactions have always been the best. And you can never mimic that with the stuff that you find online. And it could be random encounters. It doesn't have to be anywhere specific. I remember I met a medical doctor, not a PhD or some corny stuff like that. I met an actual medical doctor at a friend's party. And had I not gone to that friend's party, then I would have never met her. And so it's those interactions, right? So typically you want to start with a solid social circle. Start there. But if not, at work, I've met women. At school, I've met women. On the way to the gym, I've met women. So it's anywhere in between. As long as you're moving about life and putting yourself out there, it should be easy to find attractive women. But I think what ends up happening is you become spoiled for choice. However sort of illustrious it may seem online, the reality is you're not going to be swiping through 100 women. You're not going to see 100 women on the way to the park or on the way to the gym. It's just not, that's not realistic. It's not feasible. So part of it too is that it warps our sort of our conception of reality, right? Typically when I go outside, I'm hardly ever impressed with what I see. I went out last night for a friend's birthday, not impressed with most of these seed oil enthusiasts. Um, yeah, it was just like really disappointing because it's like if this is women putting their best foot forward, I was really disappointed. And same thing with a lot of the guys, not really that impressed. So part of it is just that it's just there's so much. There's definitely a need for serious relationship material. The other thing you have to consider too, when you meet someone online versus meeting them in person, is there's this weird sort of situationship culture that we got going on now. So there's a lot of people kind of just intermediately kind of dating and trying to figure themselves out. And it's like, hungry, you're 30 years old with 2 dogs and a cat. Like, what do you need to figure out? And, you know, the same thing with a lot of dudes that are sort of like in this transition period where they're just taking a long time to figure out what they want. I spoke to a goofball yesterday and he's like, and I was like, well, he was like, yeah, I'm still single. I have, trouble, meeting a woman, just kind of whiny and stuff. And then when, I asked him, I was like, well, what is it that you're looking for? And he's like, well, I'm kind of open to everything. I'm like, bro, I mean, it's like no frame, no ability to make a decision in terms of what you're looking for. Are you looking for something long-term or are you looking for something short-term? And it's like, no, you take what you can get. And it's like, I'm sorry, man, but if you can't make a decision on what it is that you want, a woman is not really going to be interested in dealing with a guy that's 40 years old that doesn't know what he wants. They want to know that you're sure and certain of what it is that you want. So I guess the gist of it is, at the end of the day, the the biggest reason why I would opt for meeting someone in real life versus online is that, one, the gap in terms of beauty isn't so obvious. It's much more easier to find prettier women in person than it is to find them online. So that's one part. The other thing is you cut out all the noise, right? There is no, you're not battling with 20 other dudes trying to match and trying to slide in. That urgency isn't there. The other thing is too, is I think like naturally we're designed to find people in person. Like you're supposed to find who you want to be with in action, right? Moving about through life, manifesting whatever it is that you're trying to do, like running around, killing calories, using up your energy, not swiping in a room in the dark while you're coked out, drinking beer. Like that's just not the way to go about life. So cutting corners, it's easier, but it's not the real dopamine that you should be chasing. In fact, like I said, I've done both and I never had any success online. Almost every time, it didn't matter how much I vetted these women. Almost every time, by the time I got to the first day, I was like, what am I doing here? Like, this is not what I signed up for, not what I expected. And almost every time I knew that I was better than what I was getting in return. It wasn't an even exchange. And you can call me delusional all you want, but that was not that feedback was not what I wanted. So instead, I had to just be patient and deleted all social media and decided to go outside. And when I did that, I found exactly what I was looking for plenty of times. And oftentimes it was pretty girls that had no social media presence. So there was no way to hack the system. You couldn't just try to find them online. These were girls that kind of went about their business. And if you managed to get outside, you might run into one of those. And I think that's the hard part, is you got to be patient. Otherwise, you run the risk of kind of falling into that trap of saying, I'm just going to hop online and see what I find on there. Like I said, all of the best women I ever met were always in person, never online. And most of the girls that I've found online tend to already be kind of washed up in many ways, kind of jaded. And I feel like if someone is purposely putting themselves out there online, it kind of kills like the organic nature of finding someone, because you should just be able to find someone without the intention of having to find someone. Bit ironic, but I think that's just kind of how the world works, how it's supposed to go, right? And when it comes to finding someone, is that you have to You have to kind of go with the seasons. You have to be in sync with the world that you're in, right? And that feedback will eventually give you what you need. And if you're not getting what you need, then you need to get back to the drawing board and figure it out. Figure out what it is that you're looking for and that you need. Um, Otherwise, like I said, you run the risk of going online. And the times that I have seen people do the online thing typically does not work out in the long run. So there's something there, right? There's a lesson in that you should definitely find somebody in person. There's no doubt about it. I have no doubt in my mind. Like I said, all the best women I've ever met were always online, and all the worst experiences I ever had were in person, and all the worst experiences I had were online. So if you're on the fence about what you should do, I say be patient, delete all social media, and force yourself to really get outside and chase real dopamine. And like I said, I think if you kind of go about your life and you're moving about through with a sense of intention, that should be the way to find someone. It should be the right way to find someone. So don't fret, be patient, and see you on the next one.